It's now March. Tottenham still without a win in the Premier League as Fulham defeat Tottenham. A familiar story, particularly at Craven Cottage against Fulham in recent years. Igor Tudor not having that new manager bounce. 2 defeats from 2 games. A lot to get into as Fulham beat Tottenham 2-1. Welcome to this edition of the Scarfey Spurs podcast hosted by me, Harry Scarfe. Privileged to say I was Britain's best young content creator in 2025 and this channel won 4 awards in 2025 and I've got a statistic to read you just a second that come through a couple of hours ago. It's very, very rosy for the podcast. But before we do, let's introduce tonight's fantastic panel to get me through what could be a therapy session. I'm not going to lie, I'm going to say it how it is. Philip, thank you so much for joining me all the way from Germany. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Harry. Thank you for having me on. As always, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to some dissecting the game yesterday, and maybe some group therapy, and trying to find some positivity, I guess, out of that yesterday, right, to get us through to Thursday and beyond. But come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely, come you Spurs. I can always look at positives, but it's looking difficult for Tottenham getting dragged into something none of us wanted us to get dragged into ultimately. But Philip, thank you very much for your commitment as always. Talking of commitment, I say it every time, and I will continue to say it every time. Dustin joins at an incredibly early times, 3 a.m. It should be today, if my calculations are correct. So, Dustin, thank you for your commitment as always. How are you doing?
Other than Spurs, okay.
Other than Spurs, that's okay then. Spurs, don't rely on them too much. As long as everything else in your life is okay, we can get through it. Dustin, thank you. And Justin, again, we've got a Justin and a Dustin, so I'll try and be clear as always. Justin, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. Is that the same? It's a pleasure to be on. And again, other than Tottenham, life is all good.
That's what we like. Thank you. Before we get going, very, very briefly, just to read out, quite a nice statistic. So breaking then my YouTube channel as a whole, the net public views in February was over 365,000, which means it ranked 4th amongst the best Spurs YouTube channels in terms of ranked on views. So that's up 7 places from January. And for context, that's beating the likes of Last Word on Spurs, Spurs Talk Show, Barnaby Slater, and Ben Bowman. So on this list, you've got someone just read out there, full time. We're talking here full-time people, and they've been doing it for 20 plus years. So to beat them is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for your continued support on the podcast. It's a huge chunk of that. So thank you very much. But I want to waste no time. Let's get straight into it. So Tudor's second lineup then in his second game, he went with Vicario in goal, Gray, Van der Ven, Dragusin, Porro, Gallagher, Paulinho, Basuma, and Simmons, Solanke, and Moani. Philip, when you saw that team come out, as it does now this season, an hour and 15 before kickoff, what were your thoughts? I mean, I don't know about you. I was thinking, who's going to play, where it looked like square pegs and round holes once again. Were you frustrated like many were when it come out?
Yep, I had absolutely zero idea how we were going to set up. I kept kind of wondering if it was going to be a 3 somehow, or if Archie Gray would be playing on the left or on the right, and where Conor Gallagher would be playing or where Paulinho would be playing. I was calling before the game, pretty much as I always do, for a left footer to play on the left, in the left back or the left wing back spot. So I was disappointed to not see Sousa start the game. And I know other people would disagree with me, but I still think that it can be an advantage maybe to even play Mickey van der Ven on the left on occasion, as he does for the Netherlands. But he's never played a single game there, I don't think, for us, at least not in this season. And I think the rest of the decisions were kind of fair enough. I think really Xavi, I was hoping would play centrally, but as it kind of came out, he was playing elsewhere, really off the left. Moani and Solanke kind of as a double striking partnership, although in the end it looked like Solanke was playing behind kind of Kolo, almost as a number 10. So look, I mean, again, we've got bare bones, aren't we? We're down to the bare bones, and we've got to kind of pull out these starting 11s. Obviously, Basuma started as well. Sorry, I wanted to mention him. I know we're down to the bare bones, but I would rather that he doesn't start games for us. To be honest, I'd rather we play Olasesi even, or play Archie Gray in midfield. So I wasn't particularly happy with the starting 11, but I was hoping that there would somehow be some balance despite not having a left footer on the left, and that he might still play 3 at the back. Unfortunately, I was cruelly disappointed once the game started. Well, and it didn't really go that well, did it? So, yeah, not really happy about it.
No, you can say that again. Certainly did not go well. One that we want to quickly move on from, but it needs discussing ultimately. Philip, thank you. Dustin, I mean, it's just to elaborate there and expand on Philip's point about Sousa, because he thinks that he should have started. Were you under that same impression, or do you think it's okay to maybe put players out of position at left back? Because, of course, with the doggy being out, we could have potentially, from the lineup we saw, some weren't sure if it would be Van der Ven, playing there, would it be Gray? There's a lot of uncertainty. So should have Sousa started realistically?
I think that it's better to put someone in a natural position, and even if they're a bit off the pace, they kind of like they know that position a lot better. So it's a bit like, when you put a centre back that's used to playing at a 2 at the back versus a 4 at the back versus 3 at the back, right? Their roles completely change. So the thing about putting a right-footed player is, one thing is your passing angles are different, but the other part of it is when you put a person that doesn't even play that position, there are a number of ways that they can be caught out, especially when it comes to covering, when it comes to doing overlaps and things like that. And when Sousa did come on, he actually, provided some threat. He had a very good cutback that was missed, unfortunately. So for me, it was a missed opportunity. You could have put Sousa on, and if he wasn't working out, you can always make a substitution and change it. But him coming on as late as he did as well, and when he did come on, he provided some threat. So I think that it was a missed opportunity to put a person in the right position and do a lot better. The way I think we lined up, we ended up looking more like a 4-2-2-2, and I think Gallagher had a particularly poor game if we saw him on the right, and he is not a right winger. So it's another case of putting a person out of position, and we will talk a little bit more about his performance, but I think in general it was a disappointing outing in general, and we were already down to the bare bones, but it wasn't like we didn't have players that could have played in their natural positions. So I didn't understand why we hobbled ourselves further by putting people in positions they weren't comfortable with, and clearly we didn't have enough time to train them in the new positions.
Good points there. Very appreciative of that, Dustin. Thank you very much. Justin, I'll move on to you before we move on from the lineup, because I think a lot of people look at this and go, it's a defeat. So we have to look into the personnel, the system, the formation that Tudor went with. But some positive news before the game got underway, and that was that Pedro Porro was back in the lineup and Danso was fit enough as well to make the bench. Of course, Richarlison was on the bench against Arsenal, on the bench once again in this game. Is it nice to have a few more players back from injuries, and maybe when you look at that bench, you actually recognise a few players? And what I mean by that is having senior players on the bench, which points this year we haven't had.
Yeah, no, it's definitely needed, and I was hoping it was going to take a little less pressure off Xabi having to do everything, because naturally we know what Porro's going to do every time he gets the ball. He's just going to be pinging it forward. So I was thinking that with the 2 strikers up top, that should cause some type of problem. But yeah, and there's always good confidence. It's just, again, we brought Danzo on just to really take throw-ins. I felt like that's all we really brought him on to actually do. But yeah, it's always good to have Porro back, even though I'm not the biggest fan of him at the moment. But part of that is because he's just been overplayed, and I feel like that's happened with a lot of our players. They've just overplayed. So then when they're playing bad and they're not going to get swapped out, naturally you're going to fall out of favour with the fans. But yeah, it's just a shame. It's just a shame because it didn't do too much. It's not like we then excelled forward from having Porro there, but it did cause a bit of a problem with a couple of the balls over the top.
Okay, Justin, thank you very much. Philip, if I can come back round to you and get into the actual action of the game. 7th minute, Harry Wilson opened the scoring, broke the deadlock for Fulham. Put them 1-0 ahead. Of course, still at this moment as I speak, a lot of controversy and kind of I say split opinion about the goal. for you, do you think we're having this conversation whether it should be a goal or not, largely because we're on the wrong end of it with Gabriel Moani, where of course we score, but the on-field referee disallows it, which VAR agreed with, so we don't get that decision. And then it's also gone against us. But Spurs does look at that and go, where's the consistency? So do you think because of what happened with Gabriel that there's a lot of frustration around it? Is that the main reason?
Yeah, I think it's the main reason. I mean, if the Gabriel one doesn't happen literally, a week ago, then I think it would be a bit more understandable. I mean, for what it's worth, that goal for me shouldn't have stood. It was clear two hands on our player. Like it shouldn't have stood. However, in isolation, then you could kind of understand it. But you look at all of these incidents that have happened, over the last we're only talking a month, pretty much, and each one of them has gone against us. And again, if you look at each one in detail, the Romero one, if you look at it again, I mean, it's a clear foul. Like, let's be honest. I mean, that goal, Ekitike's goal, should not be given. The Gabriel one, and then, look, this whole topic is another discussion point, isn't it? Really, you can probably talk for an hour on it as well separately. But like the Gabriel one, I mean, like Moani doesn't even really touch him. He puts he places his hands on his back, and then Gabriel kind of jumps almost like after that, and then basically goes to ground half jump. I mean, for me, the Gabriel one, he should get a yellow card almost. It's simulation for me. But I can understand maybe if the referee wasn't looking at it properly or something, that he kind of misses it or something, right? Because he was just there, right? But when you look at he had his helmet cam, his kind of head cam, like I'm not even sure if he saw it properly. But again, where does VAR come in to either like check or overrule things? And I know they say it's like for clear and obvious errors and stuff, but where's the consistency? Where's the fine line on it? As an example, like the Dragusin one there again, as you see as well, like he clearly pushes him there. Whether Dragusin is actually going to make that header or not is another question, because frankly, he's not good enough. And I think he could have missed that header anyway, but that should not be or should not come into the VAR deliberation. So I think there's a lot of frustration at the moment, just because literally seemingly each of these decisions has gone against us. There's no consistency. Either they're like, they're kind of like, they're not ruling all of them out. They're giving all, do you know what I mean? There's zero consistency. And, even in the last game, there was the Gabriel incident, right, where, he kind of, maybe it wasn't clear either, but one of our players was through on goal. I think it was Colo again as well, right? And Gabriel kind of just maybe clipped him or got in front of him. At the moment, fans are frustrated because, things aren't going our way, and we're obviously not playing well. We're not getting results. We're losing. It just adds to the stress and probably to just the general sense of, unease and everything else, right? But if you look at that goal there, he's clearly got, two hands on him. My last point is that you could argue again, maybe in that case, is it enough? But if you're giving if the Gabriel one is being disallowed, then where's the consistency? Because there is none. And that's probably going to annoy other fans, not just Tottenham fans, but that will in the end annoy other fans in the league as well. And look, fans are just annoyed. Then you've got the Premier League tweeting out, things about Tottenham or about Vicario or even about pushes and stuff. And it adds to this general annoyance, but it adds to the general annoyance of us fans right at the moment, because we feel that we're not getting any decisions. We're not even getting any luck. And we're obviously just playing so badly. And that all feeds into this whole thing where it probably just, amplifies it a bit. But it's just that lack of consistency, isn't it? Especially when you bring the ref out last week and he does an interview, on TV, and they come out about it and analyze it and stuff. And then you see that incident today, that should not be given, really, then, should it, really? But
No.
I don't know.
Okay. In my honest view, I think it's poor defending from Dragusin. He's got to be stronger. Having said that, I actually think that Jimenez isn't trying to play the ball. When Tudor says cheating, that goes very far. I think he's personally trying to get an advantage over his opponent. I think he knows what he's doing. Of course, he wants to score and play the ball. I get that. I think he knows what he's doing. 2 arms in the back. I think it's pure deliberate from Jimenez. But is it enough contact to warrant? And that's the thing. And I think you can also get a situation where you go, Jimenez has got away with it, but also Dragson's got to be stronger. So one of them. It's frustrating. I think because of the Gabriel incident is like that's the reason we feel injustice.
You're right. It is poor defending, but that shouldn't matter. That shouldn't have any impact on whether it's a foul or not. But the thing is, if Dragusin does the same as Gabriel and throws himself to the ground earlier or mid, what happens then? Does it get given? If he properly throws himself to the ground, I don't know. But that's against the spirit of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. Philip, thank you. Justin, if I come to you, for you, poor defending from Dragusin, or is it a foul? Is it a bit of both? How do you view this? Because again, it's going to cause some frustration. It feels like, I think when you're in a relegation battle and when you're sinking and you won no wins at all for us in the league, right? In 2026, it feels like the world's against us, and then you get decision after decision that just doesn't go Tottenham's way, whether it's right or wrong. That's the feeling amongst Spurs fans.
Yeah, see, I'm with Phil with the consistency, because again, the way Gabriel just jumped in the air and flew himself to the floor so quickly, and we all saw that was a nothing contact. But so then I look at that one and I'm like, oh. To be honest, I didn't notice it until I see that after the goal and then they showed it. All I was looking at was, why is no one even marking Wilson? But yeah, I just feel like it's poor defending. But again, if we're talking about consistency, he had 2 hands on his back. Whether he's pushed him or not, it should not be given. But yeah, I just feel like just watch our man take 1 step back, and that's an easy header. But yeah, at the moment when you're scrapping and you need anything, and of all teams we just go and let in a goal so easily, yeah, it's going to hurt a lot more. And I feel like if what happened last week with Arsenal wouldn't have happened, like as in it just didn't happen at all, there was no, that situation just wasn't there, then I don't know how we'd be feeling on it. But it's because we got hurt by the scum, and then to deal with that straight after is just it was just diabolical. But that's Tottenham's luck at the moment. I just feel like a lot of teams don't get a lot of luck with referees, but right now I just feel like we're just getting hurt. And a lot of the things are obvious. Certain challenges, what I've seen recently, what no one talks about, but then I'm just like, Romero does it, it's a red card straight away. We're not even talking about it. Chelsea, continuous red cards, but our discipline's bad with one man, Romero. So it's how the media wants to navigate the situation what we're in right now. We're down and out, and everyone's going to do whatever they can. Is that the same with the tweet what we'll talk about later from Premier League? Everyone's just trying to get their chance to take the nick, and regretfully, our players aren't helping us. That's the worst bit. Our players are not helping us.
No, certainly not. And the fans are with the players and the team and the manager. Make no mistake about it throughout that game, especially in that first half against Fulham. I mean, let's see, anyone that watched the game would be TV or in person will tell you that. So that's one thing I will say. Fans are there. The players also need to do.
Saying that, the commentators tried to say that our fans only made noise after we scored, and I was thinking, was you not listening to the first half?
Yeah, it's not
like
true.
They were singing when we were playing so poorly. I could not believe that our fans were making that much noise while we were playing that bad. Like, I rate our fans so highly. Like, we get disrespected a lot.
I think there's a conversation, a grown-up one, to be had in the kind of moving forward about the home atmosphere, but away from home, the question, you can't question that commitment. I mean, the fact that it's all turning up, we're the only Premier League side without a win in 2026. That for me factually means we're worse than Wolves and Burnley. Have picked up A, more points, and B, more wins. So whether you like it, in 2026 alone, Tottenham are the worst side in the league, and still the support, full attendances pretty much, and a lot of noise wherever we go. But Dustin, before we move on, you can speak about the incident, but moving away from it ever so slightly, still sticking on this first goal from Harry Wilson. I mean, very good goal from him, but again, he's allowed to bring it down and score. What's the point of 5 defenders if you can't pick up someone inside the box? Don't get it. Don't get it at all, Dustin. I think you're on mute. Work out to unmute. Oh, wait till
Sorry,
you
yep.
work out to. There you go. That's it.
Yeah, it's a complete mess. And essentially, I think the main problem that we have there is that we have gone from a team that we don't defend well in the box because we're not coordinated, and we have played our previous game as a back three versus a back four. So I think that the struggle is that Tudor is a manager that's very wedded to a back four or back three system, and that means that regardless of how what kind of players he has, he will always try to play a back three. He's played a back four very little. So part of the issue then is that he is playing a system that's unfamiliar to him, or one that he doesn't favor for whatever reason, meaning that his ideas of how to defend would also be different. He also plays a very man-to-man system. So I think the other part of the problem there is that if you are very wedded to a man-to-man system, one of the weaknesses there is that teams can use the fact that you're man-to-man to pull your players out of position. And a lot of it depends on how well your team transitions out of man-to-man when they recognize that they're being pulled out of position to go, okay, I have to hand this person over to this zone because he's trying to pull me, the centre-back, out such that the taller player, goes up against a wing-back, for example. So I think it's partially having to come to grips with the fact that teams in the Premier League will analyze you and figure out your weaknesses, and a lot of our problems have come from our players being put out of position or not being in a position to for example, the second goal, right? The person that should be picking up that Iwobi is Solanke, but he's a striker. He's not well suited to be picking out that player. So a lot of these mismatches happen when you go too much to man, and you don't have a good system of transitioning out from that into a more zonal system where you have the right person marking people in certain areas of the pitch.
Dustin, thank you very much. Appreciate it. If I can stick with you then, second goal was scored by Alex Iwobi in the 34th minute to double Fulham's lead, assisted by Harry Wilson. So, very good day for him once again. Golden assist, attracting a lot of interest at big clubs. But on this goal, I mean, you got to hold your hands up with you, Dustin. Special goal from Alex Iwobi. I don't think you score a better goal than that. Certainly not for a long time.
Yeah, the placement of the goal was quite astounding. But I think it's one of those things that follows the trend of conceding long-range goals. And that's the thing, where Tudor can take over, but he's only been coaching for 2 games. And we've had an entire season of conceding lots of goals from long range. I have counted it, in fact, and I believe it's something like we've conceded 11 goals from long range by now. So as a result, that means that even if Tudor comes in and the philosophy has changed from Frank, where you don't regard it as a low XG chance again, players have muscle memory and they're used to not treating goals from range seriously. So let me try to show that.
There's a lot of goals conceded, isn't it? It's 11. That's an awful lot.
It's
Huge
11.
amount. I'd love to know what other
Let
clubs
me-
are, but I imagine it's single digit.
Let me quickly show you my screen. So it's the one that has my name, and this is the screenshot that shows how many
Here we
we
are.
conceded. So we have conceded 2 to Forest, 1 to Bournemouth, 2 to PSG, 2 to Fulham, 2 to Villa, 1 to Bournemouth in the previous fixture. No, this is the current fixture. 2 to Bournemouth 1 to Bournemouth in the previous fixture. 1 to Brighton, 1 to Fulham, 1 to Arsenal in the derby. So I did this presentation when we had conceded 9 goals from long range. We've since added another 2. So we continue to do this.
Not good. And Dustin, I don't expect you to necessarily have the answer to it, but I'm still going to ask anyway. How do you think you solve this problem? I completely understand that's the role of Igor Tudor and his coaches to sort this, but do you think it's maybe just coming out of position, going and pressing the ball and not sitting too deep? What's the answer to this? Because we need to solve it because it's costing. We're losing games like Fulham, for example. We lose by a single goal under Frank. Whatever you thought of him, a lot of those games we lost by a single goal. Like, I'm not saying that we're unlucky or anything like that, but it feels like it's within our control to start turning these losses into draws and start turning draws into wins.
I think there are a couple of things that we need to like separate blame for, right? Because I think given the position we're in, everyone's looking to point fingers. So the fact that we are to the bare bones, that's club hierarchy stuff. The fact that we have problems that we can't fix easily, I think it's partially on Frank, but it's also partially on making the decision to fire Frank very late so that we have less time to turn things around. So things have become even more ingrained, right? Which is we don't pass through the middle, we don't do central ball progression, we do lots of crossing, and we are heavily over-reliant on our right flank and Poro. We don't really create much down the left flank. The other part is allowing long distance shots. So all of these things, you can kind of lay the blame on Frank's door, but he's not here anymore. But players need time to change the way they've been playing for the past, half a season or so. The issue is that when you fire Frank, you fire him after the transfer window's closed. You don't reinforce during that transfer window. So you've compounded those issues where you might have changed the manager, but the manager has like 13 fit players and you didn't reinforce, and you were like, yes, I didn't panic during the transfer window, but now we're in a position where if he looks to the bench, he sees a bunch of teenagers, and maybe some of them should be in. I think Byfield should be playing a bit more, for example. But I think that we're in a situation where we have a lot of muscle memory from the way Frank played. So we may have some of the weaknesses from that system, and it's at odds because we've now switched to a manager that plays a different style, where Tudor likes to play a high line and Frank preferred to sit back a bit and hit people on the break, or in some cases high press a team to win possession in their half. So you have players that are now trying to adapt to a new manager, and the new manager style is again completely different from the previous manager style.
That's interesting, and that's the problem, is that you bring in an interim and don't have a proper chance to address that, and maybe that's something. I know that we want it now, but after Palace you've got that international break. Is that the opportunity to address things like that? I know that they come away, but logic would tell you that's the time to sort out little things. And for example, if set pieces were an issue, that's when you sort them out. I'd argue that our long throws are now ineffective, but that's a whole different conversation and a huge frustration. And I tell you what, I'll just say it quickly. I know I do want to get into it later, but maybe listen, I'm a young fan, so I can't even say being old fashioned, but surely the centre backs have got to be in the box when you take a throw, not taking the throw in, eh? They've got to be in the box. They're the most threat, I would have thought, the centre backs and the forwards. In Dragassin's throws were horrific. I mean, I'd rather one of you take one of those throws. So I don't know what the thinking was there.
The other point I'll make about our long throws was that we had long throws initially that we got some joy from, but that was a burst of a few amount of
it's about two.
It was like four or five. Yeah, 4 or 5 games where we had throws that did well, but this stat is not accurate. But at the point that I looked at it, maybe 4 or 5 games ago, only 15% of our long throws actually found our own player. So it's not even like it is a continued source of success. It's not anymore.
And Dragson's like throwing it no further than the near post, and all the players are way to the back post, and we're just at risk every time for counter attack. Things like this, where we're not football coaches, but they're very obvious to. If they're obvious to me, they've got to be obvious to Igor Tudor. I'm no expert at all on coaching. But before we move on, Justin, if I come to you on this second goal before we get on to the second half and the rest of the game, of course it is a good goal by Iwobi, but I hate to single out individuals, but if you look at Vicario, I'm not saying he should save it. Let's be clear about that. Again, he does his classic shuffle to the other side, and the goal goes in the other corner. So if you look at your back, I don't know if you've seen it. What about if he holds his position? Does he stand more of a chance of keeping this out?
See, me and Vic, I'm getting sick and tired of this. Because my problem is he will pull off some great saves. Like, don't get me wrong, he will pull off some great saves. But majority of all of these long shots, it's exactly like you said. He does a little shuffle, which I don't understand. Like, I wasn't a keeper, but I've been in goal a couple times, and it was always, if you ever feel that you can't see it, just step forward a little bit. Just step forward a little bit. Don't step to the side. Just step forward a little bit, so it gives you more of an opportunity to hit the ball before it hits the corner. But yeah, this guy is. Iwobi is he's free. No one's even stopping him. No one tries to block it, like sliding away. And I know obviously the players are used to a certain style of football, but just run out the box. There's so many times. Just run out of the box. Just get everyone out of the box. And that will mean you lot will be closer to the ball naturally. But yeah, Vic, I just don't understand, because he had a couple problems that game. I can't remember who flung in the ball. I think it was Bassi. Simple catch. This guy's fumbling it. It's to the level when you watch the replay, Radu's even looked at the keeper and saying, "Come to the ball," and he still fumbled the ball. And I think his confidence is low, but he's got no one challenging him. I feel like it was the same with Hugo after a while, where there was no one challenging him, and where he's getting worse, but there's still no one to challenge him. What can he really do? There's not much you can do. But yeah, Vic, yeah, there's problems with this guy. He's not that dominating force when he first came, what made us all confident and thinking, well, if someone's taking the shot, he's at least gonna save that. He's at least gonna tip it to the side, he's gonna do something. But now these long shots, as he's saying, 11 long shots have gone in. That is absolutely diabolical when you think about it. Because I guarantee if we go back and look at all of the goals, how many times is he blindsided, or is it he's got enough time to at least make a right decision instead of shuffling to one side? What's naturally going to cause you? Why would you even shuffle to that side? Did you really think he was going to go near post? That's what I was thinking to myself. Did you think he was going near post from where he was, where the players were? There was no way he's going to aim for near post. No one's expecting it to go in how he did, but yeah, man. But then is Kinski good enough? This is the problem.
And that's the thing. Some Spurs fans are saying now, is Kinski really that bad, not to get in the team? But I'll get onto this in about 10 minutes. We can run through the rest of the game, because I think there's a fair bit that you guys will want to say about it. Could be wrong about it. But at halftime, Fulham went into it with a 2-0 advantage. Philip, I'm going to challenge you here. What one word, or if you can't manage one word, few words, and as few as possible, would you use to describe that first half? That's appropriate. Oh, you're on mute.
Good thing I was muted, because it probably would have been banned. I definitely can't repeat probably the first 15 words that I would think of, right, in terms of that performance. But obviously it was terrible, right? But it's kind of like almost expected. Like hashtag no change, like hashtag same old. There was nothing in that first half whatsoever to inspire any confidence that we can probably even get to the point where we can win games again. Like, that's as bad as it's got.
This is tell you all you need to know as well. Look, Barney, I know quite well, and a Fulham fan says in the chat here, I'll be honest, I was disappointed it was only 2-0 to us. We were wasteful. They've got a Fulham fan there saying he's disappointed that his team was only 2-0 up. That's a true reflection of the first half, isn't it?
It could have been 4 or 5-0, right? And it should have been, let's say, 3. Really should have been 3-0, I would have said, or maybe 4-0 possibly, but and over the whole game anyways, like we could have easily conceded, 5 or 6, honestly. And that's what's disappointing. We just give away goals for fun. We either give away the ball in stupid positions, because we lose the ball and then they go and score, or we're just wide open, we're not marking one player, or you have the Dragusin kind of incident there. Then you've got Vicario on top, basically just hitting, I think it was the first half, wasn't he, where he just hit that ball straight into touch, straight out, like, to the side. Obviously in the second half was his other one. But in that first half, you just like kind of wondering what are you doing, man? I mean, it's no surprise, right? Like obviously with Vicario as well, his distribution has been it's anyways not good, but it's been shocking this season. And everything in that first half just didn't work. You know, we didn't really, the midfield didn't work. Obviously, it transcribed quite quickly. You know, as Dustin was saying, that Gallagher was on the right-hand side of a 4-4-2. You know, so essentially playing right wing or right midfield, whatever, Beckham role from the old days. Why? You know, why is he playing there? You know, like then at least put him in the middle instead of Basuma or whoever else you're playing there, you know, if you're going to set up, you know, in a different system, but you don't play him on the right-hand side. He could have still played someone else there, honestly, or he could have even put, if he really wanted to play that system, he probably could have, you know, put Archie Gray right back and put Porro right midfield or something, right? I mean, there's options, right, where you'd have more round pegs in round holes. And in that first half, all of those square peg and round hole decisions came to bear fruit well, they didn't bear fruit. They basically just confirmed that, you know, we were getting thrashed. You know, Fulham were better than us all over the pitch. And even Iwobi's goal, yeah, like, I mean, there was no one near him, as always. No one closing him down. No one coming out of defence to block it. No one in that pocket. And if I'm being honest, I mean, it was a great goal, but like, maybe I'm being even, maybe, I don't know. If it was David Raya in goal for us, I think Raya saves that. I think Raya gets fingertips on that. Honestly, I do. If I look at, I'm not saying that he should save it. I'm not saying that, you know, that goal, that shot should be saved because it was a great shot.
A lot of it's about position, isn't it? It's just that extra elite level, isn't it? That the likes of Raya have.
But yeah, but that's exactly the point. It's positioning, right? It's not like diving and having the reaction.
He's a good shot stopper. It's just he just doesn't help himself.
you can talk about it maybe after this, but he proved it with that save, you know, at the beginning of the second half, right? Before.
Yeah, big save, huge save.
Do you know what I mean? Like that would have been completely game over, and it would have been deserved for Fulham. But it's not just his saves; like it is his positioning as well. And I would just say that if that was David Raya or potentially another goalkeeper in the Premier League, you know, you saw Pickford deliver a great performance against Newcastle, including that wonder save that he did.
What a save!
But yeah, it's about positioning sometimes. It's about working out where you are in the goal. And if we're allowing long shots, then maybe from certain positions, you have to bear that in mind. And, you know, he didn't look good positioning wise from that. But I mean, look, I can talk about Vicario till the cows come home because, you know, I just cannot understand how Vicario still starts every single damn game, regardless of whether Kinski's playing well in training or not. I really rate Kinski. I've talked about it before in the pod. I've got a good mate of mine who lives in Prague. He's been there for like 10 years. His kids play sport in Kinski's old sporting club that he was part of. I can't remember if it was Slavia or Sparta, one of those. And, you know, he is like rated as kind of like the next. We're not saying he's going to be as good as Peter Cech, right? That's you know, that's a lofty claim, but they're rating him as the next kind of big keeping thing, right? Who has the potential, you know, to be, you know, the number one for Czech Republic for many, many years and obviously become a starter. And his distribution is a lot better. I know some people have said his shot stopping is suspect, but he's hardly played. He made his debut against Liverpool at Anfield in a non-functioning Ange back line. You know, like I just don't get it, Harry. I honestly don't understand how Vicario can start every single game, and even Brandon Austin, if you want to give him like, because the problem with Vicario is, you know, he's a good shot stopper in isolation, but he does not dominate his box.
But is it the case of taking the risk at this stage of the season? I know some people go, okay, couldn't get any worse, but I think changing goalkeeper is bold to do. Newcastle tried it, then they went back with Pope and Ramsdale. I still don't think they have a designated number one. It just feels like maybe a danger. I'm not defending it. I'm just thinking maybe why it hasn't been done. It's a bold thing to do for a new manager to come in and boom, you know, you're Kinski straight in, or Kinski's just run away. Maybe he's not available. That's the way it's looking. He's hardly placed.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I get also why some would say, well, you're not going to just throw in Tynan Thompson or Luca Williams-Barnett, right? Because they're 16, 17, 18, right? Is it fair? Is it risky?
Well, would they show more fight than what we're currently
that's
seeing? More fight, more heart, more grit.
But that's the thing, and sometimes these youngsters, they don't sink, they swim. They take to the perceived adversity well. Maybe because they don't have as much experience, right? But do you need it? I'm not saying it's the solution, but it cannot be that Vicario starts every single game, makes errors in every single game, and I'm pretty sure that whatever defense is lined up in front of him, and admittedly it's always changing as well, but they cannot have. I cannot believe that those defenders have got confidence in Vicario.
I was just going to say, if I was the manager, Tudor, and we might have done this already, who knows? I'd be speaking to defenders and go, look, whether he's your mate or not, be honest. Do you have confidence in Vicario? And ask Vicario the same question. If there's not 100% confidence or close to it, boom, there has to be a change in goalkeeper, right? Unless, again, they really don't trust Kinski or Austin. I can't see them not trusting both, because if you don't have no trust, that's where errors happen. Because when you, in my opinion, you don't have trust, like you spoke about the Drags in Vicario incident, and you get things like that, but worse, where like defenders like, oh, the goalkeeper has it covered, goalkeeper's like, defender has it, just goes completely wrong. We've seen it in the past. I remember was it Lloris and Trippier at Stamford Bridge, for example. There's a Trippier own goal in the end. That type of thing will occur if there's no, I think anyway, just my view, trust. And I don't think there is 100% confidence. It's probably about half confidence. And Van der Ven checking out is a large part of that. He's looking behind him. He's looking next to him. And he's not happy. He's not confident. And he looks ahead of him as well. Midfield attack. There's nothing really there inspiring, is there? But we could be here for hours, if not more, talking about this. We will, I promise, come back to Vicario. We will.
I think
Honestly,
a point I make to
Yes.
Philip about like trusting youngsters as well. There are a bunch of youngsters we trusted during Ange's injury period. I mean, why do we trust Bergvall and Gray now? They were thrown into the deep end when we were deep in an injury crisis, and we think of them as seasoned players now, but they weren't when they started last season.
they were arguably the best performing during that period as well. I remember people saying about how the young players don't let people
And we
down.
haven't seen anything like the Europa League game where what was it? All the youngsters scored, including Dane Scarlett.
Exactly.
I've forgotten their names, but yeah, those were
there's a
times
few.
where, and there were Champions League games that we could have done this, because not all of the Champions League games were difficult. We could have done it against Copenhagen, we could have done it against Slavia Prague, for example, but we didn't.
Byfield
exactly that.
looked good when he played as well. Byfield, when he did play, he looked good, right? And I know he was injured in one of the recent games, or he was ill or something like that. But he would have generally been a good option actually now against Fulham, to be honest, because he can play centre back or he can play right back. But at least he knows how to play those roles, right? And he's fast and he's quick and he's big. Better that than playing these square pegs in round holes, like shoehorning players into positions just because they think they're a better player overall. It's like on Championship. It's like on Football Manager, Harry, or Championship Manager. You've got like an 80 rated player, and then you've got a 72 rated player. But that's so. Do you know what I mean? They've got a desired position that they can play in, which is their speciality position. But play that left back, play that left wing back. Play Tell from the beginning, if it makes sense. Tell can play right midfield or right wing in a 4-4-2. He plays there for France. It's better than putting someone like Conor Gallagher as a right winger.
And that's the whole point of the youth academy, isn't it? Surely, what's the point of having it if you're not going to use it? And do you know what? More Premier League clubs than you think do not have a youth academy. One of them was Brentford. Of course, that might explain why Thomas Frank was reluctant, of those who didn't know, to use the youth academy. They did not have a youth academy. They never have, and they have no plans. Actually, no, I say they have no plans. They do have one now. They have no plans to expand or improve their youth facilities. They have got something basic up and running, but they didn't when Thomas Frank was there. He left basically, and that's when it kind of got going. You see a lot about it advertised. That is purely not because Brentford's youth academy is good, but because it is brand new. But you can function without, if you sign the players. Tottenham don't sign the players or trust the youth academy, but we must move on for now. 58th minute, triple substitution then by Igor Tudor. On come Tell, Richarlison and Sarr for Mwani, Simmons and Gallagher. We'll get on to individual performances, etc. in just a bit. 64th minute, Van de Ven was booked, but on to something more positive. I mean, it's been 45 minutes pretty much of negative chat, and understandably with the situation we're in, but lifeline in this game and a goal, which we don't get too many of them, unfortunately, anymore, nor do we points. But Richarlison got the goal, assisted by Archie Gray. Dustin, if I come to you firstly, Tell doesn't he deserve a lot of credit in this move, along with, of course, Gray, who gets the assist. Then Richarlison at the end of it. I mean, that's a perfect example of substitutions working, isn't it? Coming on, making an impact, and clawing Tottenham back in the game, despite how we've been playing before that.
The question I have is, what does Tell need to do to play more? Because every time that he's come on, we seem to keep having this discussion, which is like, why does Tell not play more? It's almost like every time he comes on, it's not just that he does things that are technically good. It's also that he seems to show more fight. He seems to show more desire. He seems to want to move the ball positively. And if anything, if there are players that do not embody the stodgy kind of football we've had where we don't do anything creative, Tell is almost the antithesis of that. What surprises me the most is that he comes on, makes an impact, but then gets benched again the next game. So I really don't understand what he does in training, whether he spits in everyone's coffee at the lodge or something, but I don't understand why he gets almost no game time, considering that whenever he's come on, he's actually been positive, he's created chances, he's caused opponents chaos down his flank.
I completely agree personally. Justin, I come to you now. Richarlison and Tell, of course, making an impact for this goal. In hindsight, of course, we look at it and go, oh, we wish it had started. But to Palace, I don't want to preview it necessarily because we've got a podcast before them. But do you think both of them should start, or at least be in contention to start? Because Richarlison, like when he's been fit, has the most goals out of all our strikers when he's been available. And Tell seems to be having a consistent impact.
Okay. Honestly, Richie, that's a hard one for me because I'm just not a fan. Cole, he got his goal. Well done. Well done. But if we remove the goal, everything else he did was horrible. Every touch, everything. Other than his little battle with Bassi, everything he does is horrible. He can't link up play, he can't do nothing. So using him as a super sub, I'm cool with that. Tell is a different story. I feel like
But do you need
Tell
Richarlison's
should
fight,
be.
though? Do you need his fight in this relegation battle? I know he's a frustrating player.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, 100%. We need his fight, but we need quality as well, and that's the only thing what Richie will lack. Like if he's our main striker, starting games again, we will lose so much of what we need from our play. Now, if we had better players who could create more, then it'd be different, and we wouldn't have to use them in the link-up play. Whole different story. But because we will use him in the link-up play, he just does not help us. It just won't work. But then if we have Tell one who's going to dominate that ball on the left-hand side, if we had Kudos or something like that on the right-hand side who's going to dominate it, but obviously Porro, let's just say Porro's playing, Tell's playing, Xavi's playing, it's less touches what Richie should have away from the goal. Now, the more touches he gets in the box, I'm fine with that because he will score goals. But yeah, it's just the link-up play. That's my only problem with Richie. It's so poor. It kills me every single time. But him in the box, crossing the ball in, we just spam crosses into the box, perfect for Richie. If we actually get the ball into the box, it's good to go. But this is where I feel sorry for players like Dom and other players because again, it's just a lack of chances. I feel like if they were in their position, just in that box, and they're there to get the headers, get the tap-ins, good to go. But out of all of our players, yeah, Richie's probably going to fight harder than any of our players because he's been here the longest. He does love our club, so he's gonna try harder than anyone out of the three. But yeah, it's just a quality. If his quality was better, yeah, I'd love Richie to play more games. I can't lie, but I don't know. You know what it is? I was so happy when he scored because I was literally saying in my head, "Oh, this guy again." But then he scored. But then it's just the rest of his game. That's my only problem.
Absolutely. And we had that, didn't we, with Brennan Johnson? A lot of fans felt the same anyway. I don't want to speak for people necessarily, but I think the frustration was, correct me if I'm wrong, but the all-round game was the issue. We get the goals, but the all-round game. And of course, goals win you games. That often was my point, if I'm honest, at the time. But ultimately, I get the concerns all-round performance, because if you don't play well and score, the general consensus is you can't keep up that form. That's the general feeling. Johnson at Palace, to say he's struggling right now would be an understatement, but we'll move on. Oh, we've got them next, haven't we? You know what's going to happen,
I think the other
unfortunately.
part. I think the other part about it is that we came from a previous manager where the system created the chances and the striker
Yes.
was there to finish, right? But now that we are relying on the striker to, cook his own dinner, so to speak, and especially because we are creating a lot less chances. I think that the paucity of chances and the quality of chances dropping significantly has resulted in these weaknesses coming to the fore. Where previously we were creating much higher XG chances, we were creating chances that were easier to score, where they were facing the goal and not, trying to beat 6-foot centre backs to hitters. It was easier for our strikers to look good, but we're now playing in a system where they are constantly battling multiple players, DM centre backs for second balls, and they're also very dislocated from the rest of the team. So even if they win the second ball, they have to fight for the second ball they just won rather than hitting it down to a teammate. So I think the context is also the way that the team has been playing has exacerbated many of their weaknesses.
Good point, Dustin. As always, thank you very much for that insight. Talking of the devil, Richarlison, 66th minute, he was booked. If we move on, then 80th minute, Sousa come on for Basuma, and 90th minute, Danso come on for Dragusin. I think purely for those throws. And I should add, 95th minute, Pedro Porro was booked, which really sealed what we knew, that Tottenham had lost this game, which brings us to full time. And there are a few things to discuss. Philip, I'll start with you. Ultimately, it is another defeat. Igor Tudor failing to have an instant impact. I mean, a lot of people, myself included, will look at that game and go, very little, if any at all, fight, very little quality. And, quotes from Tudor after the game were very interesting. Things he was saying, like he says here, that it's always about, of course, it's a confidence problem. How do we change? Tell me how we change. I don't want to dig him out after 2 games because the problems lie deeper. But Igor, isn't this part of your job? Surely.
To be honest, he was quite negative after the game and in the press conference. He came across quite he was very quiet, immediately after the game, and he looked, I don't want to say he looked broken, right? He's only been at 2 games, but like he kind of like, I think he's realized that this challenge, this job, this role, this project is actually a lot more difficult than he expected. And look, the thing is that we when he was appointed, we were looking at his kind of interim appointments in the past. How he's gone into these teams and improved their finishing position, let's say. But the thing that I realized probably more over the last 10 days is looking at a bit more detail. He's never taken over a team which is like very close to the relegation zone, and it's literally been, an interim role to kind of make sure to keep that league status, and rally a team against the drop. And on top of that, you've got this squad with all the injuries as well. And when the other roles that he did in Italy, the teams were out of contention, or they were dropping out of contention of the Champions League or the Europa League. So he got in to kind of try and just reset maybe and reboot them in terms of getting back on track for that. But they were like between 4th and 8th in the league. We're 15th, 16th, and we're getting worse by the game and we're dead. And I think he's never done that role. And I think he's realized now as well that, it's all a lot more difficult than he thought. He probably thought that he was going to come in, the previous manager or the previous regime or whatever you want to call it, what was obviously not doing things at all effectively, and that he would be able to spend a week with the players and get them more positive, get them passing the ball better. Look, I guess in some respects, that's what we probably expect of an interim manager, right? Is to come in and get that bounce out of them and get them doing those things. But I don't think he expected it like that. And he's now realizing, 2 defeats against Fulham now, we could have lost, 6-1. Like literally, we could have lost 6-1. If that game goes to 3-0 as well, right? Instead of the subs coming on and making a bit of an impact, then who knows how it could have finished. I don't think we would have got back in the game at that point. He looks a bit broken, and he's kind of saying slightly the right things, but then he's also being very negative, and he's kind of also seems to me like he's already kind of being anti the players, and he's finger pointing a bit towards the players. We know that the players are at fault as well, right? I mean, of course it's down to the players, right? They're not delivering performances. They're not anywhere near the level that they should be, right? And the confidence is at an all-time low. There is zero confidence there, nothing. They can't do anything. They can't pass the ball properly. But my concern is that he's not going to be able to get a tune out of these players in the coming weeks. And they will also just, they've already switched off by the looks of it anyways, right? Some of them are giving up. Some of them are looking forward to their moves in the summer, but it's his job to try and get something out of these players. He doesn't know the club. He doesn't know the league. He's going to have to try and inspire these players somehow. And I've got to be honest, like we only need like a couple of wins probably, to be honest. And obviously then continue to hope that the other teams don't pick up enough points. But it's not really the way that we should be approaching a relegation battle. And I just can't see the fight in the players. I can't see the energy in the players. I can't see the will to even create like proper chances on duration. Having said that, if we play the players in the right positions where we can, and as Dustin said as an example, play Telmore, because whenever he comes on, he wants to try and make things happen. He created that goal, just by being positive and driving down the left. And then obviously Archie delivered a fantastic cross. But, that's the only way we can probably give ourselves a chance is if he takes a step back and looks at the squad and keeps it a bit more simple and tries to work out where these players actually should be playing or can play, more effectively. And maybe tweak the formation as well, because for me, if he plays 3 at the back or plays a 5, wing backs, I still think it fits our squad better. He can play Sousa and Porro, and he can play Tel even as a number 10 along with Xavi if he wants. Moani probably needs dropping, to be honest. He was awful. He was shocking at the weekend. Bring him off the bench. But look, these are all questions that probably everyone's got their own opinion on, or how he can do it. But I'm really, really concerned about Igor Tudor now as well, because I can't see. I'm struggling to see how he's going to get a tune and how he's going to inspire these players from where we are at the moment.
Well, I think by playing the same way as we did on Thomas Frank isn't going to be a very good look, ultimately. And when you put square pegs in round holes, which you all, I think, are in agreement of that we've done in this game and did against Arsenal, less choice against Arsenal, I appreciate that. But that's not going to get you very far. But there are a few things I do want to run through before we end. We'll start with potentially a positive, let's just say. Justin, if I come to you, Archie Gray, I don't think it's mentioned enough, plays in so many different positions, gives 110%. Do you think he deserves a lot of credit? The situation we're in, of course, isn't nice, but do you think he deserves credit for the way that he's been playing? And like even in this game, playing 2 different positions and still holding himself to a high level?
No, 100%. To be honest, I know he must be sitting there with his family thinking, was it worth coming to Tottenham? Because these 2 seasons, he's never able to properly play in his main position. And somehow this Swiss Army knife is just pulling it out. I'm not going to say he had like a 10 out of 10 performance, but again, for playing in a position what you're not comfortable with, still able to do your job. And then you pulled off a good cross and you got an assist out of nowhere. He's got a couple goals. Yeah, I rate Gray highly. I just feel like he just doesn't get the credit he deserves because he's never in his actual position. I feel like if he played 5, 6, 10 games actually as a centre mid, he'd able to show people what he can do. But yeah, what can you do? This guy puts the team on his back every single time. You can see that he wants it. He actually grinds it out. He tries to do something when you can see he's not comfortable at all, but he still tries to be positive about it. It's just a shame that he hasn't got good enough role models around him. That is the biggest shame. He hasn't got enough players around him who are going to be up for the fight. And funny enough, Bergvall was with him that whole of last season, and that was their little competition to keep pushing each other. And right now, he must look around and really think, do you not want to get relegated? Do you lot actually want to get? Because I know in his mind he must be thinking this is a possibility. But I know a lot of these players are thinking it's impossible still. And that last game showed me a lot of the players don't think that we can go down, and they're just going to try and walk out of a relegation battle, which I don't think we're going to be able to do.
Worrying times. Okay, thank you very much. Dustin, another defeat. How are you viewing our chances of relegation? Because if we won this game, we would have been 7 points from safe. This huge cushion going into that Crystal Palace game, aside that aren't in the best of form, if we're honest, in 2026, suffering for confidence. But the way it is, we're still just 4 points from the drop. So how do you view our chances of, in terms of the whole battle relegation, but also is it saving grace that both Forest and West Ham lost this weekend? Leeds as well. Did that really help Tottenham?
We're right now relying on the other teams being worse than we are, rather than putting our fate in our own hands. So I think that the other part about it is we haven't had a good run of games to start Tudor's reign with. Starting with the North London derby against probably the strongest Arsenal team in the last decade or so was never going to be a good start. Starting against Fulham, who were on form, and also kind of Arsenal B team, right? All the Arsenal rejects end up there. That doesn't help. So two teams that are strongly motivated to send us down. I think that where the two games that I think are pivotal in this run are the Crystal Palace game next and the Forest game. Forest game being a 6-pointer, Crystal Palace being one of the teams that's in poor form. Although who are we to talk about poor form? There's no one worse than us right now. So I think those games would be really, if we're going to get points, I think we have to start with those two games. And if we fail to get points from those two games, then considering we have Chelsea and Liverpool away coming up, I don't see us getting points from them even in the best of times. We will really be staring down the barrel at that point. I previously had that relegation table that you put up earlier. The reason I brought that up was that most of the time when an interim manager takes over, if they take over when they're already in the relegation zone, they're bang in trouble. If they take over with very few games, they're also bang in trouble. So if you take over with less than half the season, if you see from this list, for example, we see Leeds where Sam Allardyce took over with 4 games left and he went down, right? And if you look at all the other ones where there are less games, for example, Mike Jackson takes over from Sean Dyche with 8 games left, he goes down. So there are very few where you take over with this few games and still stay up. The saving grace we have is that we weren't in the relegation zone. So there are times that you can take over in 17th with 8 games left. Mark Hughes did it and still stayed up. But it's quite rare. Normally you need more games to turn it around. And normally it depends on the form that you're in. So even though we were not in the relegation zone, we didn't give Tudor many games to turn it around. And we were also in bad form. Players lacking confidence, injury crisis. So if you take all of those things in combination, we don't really... The only thing we can hope for is players becoming fit and strengthening us. But given our injury record, is that something we can really count on?
That's the problem. Okay, Dustin, thank you very much for that. Just a few things quickly that I do want to do because I'm conscious of time, just to wrap up. There's just a couple more questions. Justin, on Gallagher, is this really the player that you wanted Tottenham to break their wage structure for, pay 200 grand a week, especially to be played at right midfield? I mean, I don't want to be over moaning or just be ungrateful here, because we all want us to break, I'm sure, that wage structure to pay players what they think they deserve, because it means you can attract and retain the top players. That's just factual. That goes without saying. But should it have been on Conor Gallagher? Really?
Definitely not. Definitely not. That's not the type of player we need. I still don't know why we got him. I understand, obviously, Bentancur's got injured, so you bring in another player. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Gallagher. I don't rate him as a top player whatsoever, like whatsoever. So for me, it was just a waste. And if we're gonna do that, at least in the positions what we've needed, could have got in a top striker, top left winger. Like we could have got in a position we needed. But no, we take away goals with Johnson and we add in Gallagher. I don't understand. That just gives me a minus. That's all it does. And I feel
And
sorry
we
for
said
him
no
because
to
he's running
Lookman,
around.
right? We said no to
Yeah,
Lookman and
no to
Grealish, right?
And well, we'll learn that lesson when we have to take on Atletico anyway. But yeah, it's upsetting because it's like the club do this to take the mick. They'll show us, oh, we're prepared to break the wage structure. We'll do it, but then you do it for Gallagher. Like, what was the point of it? But it's a shame because it's just not good enough. But that's not on him. That's on us for profiling him and buying him as a player. Like, it just made no sense. And then for Lange to do his interview to say that we didn't want to risk getting in certain players. The disgrace. The bit what annoys me is they're not going to have to deal with this. When they get sacked, they're not going to have to deal with the aftermath. They're not going to have to deal with if the club get relegated. None of them are going to have to deal with it because they earn money from the club. Whereas we're supporters, we're fans, so it's going to hurt us a lot more. And we just won the Europa League, and this is the season what we do after. This is what we do. So yeah, it's well done for them because they broke the wage structure, so that's a positive. So let's hope that we can do that while we're in the championship because I don't know how it's going to help us right now.
Brutal, but some would say fair. Justin, thank you very much. Philip, I'm going to ask you about Vicario. Just again, I don't want to open a whole can of beans because of time, but distribution. I mean, I was on X yesterday, right? And I don't like to scroll. I prefer to put content and post content, I should say, and come away for various different reasons, right? Just, for my own good as well as Spurs fans' good. But what I will say is, when I opened it, I mean, I saw about 3 or 4 different videos of Vicario putting the ball out of play or it not just quite going right. One was a free kick that just completely goes out of play. I remember seeing it live and I had to rub my eyes, make sure that, this is reality. But the thing is, Vicario's distribution, is that a concern? But also the post we saw from the Premier League almost mocking him in a way. Is that acceptable? Should the Premier League in their position be doing that? So 2 questions for you there.
Well, I mean, Vicario's distribution is clearly a concern. I mean, he's probably up there with having the worst distribution in the league. I would think if I did a keeper by keeper analysis. I mean, very rarely can I ever remember him actually playing a long ball, either out of hands, doing a drop kick kind of thing, or actually throwing the ball out fast to like Porro or the thing on the left, over the thing. Like his distribution generally is just poor. His long balls, his short balls, always has been, but it just seems to have got worse this season. And I don't know if that's just a confidence thing on top, and I don't really understand it because I know there's probably a limit, right, to how good or how well you can become at these things. If you're a football player, you're training, you're working with coaches, right? There's only probably a limit to how good you can get. But there's surely, either in terms of his skills that he's using or in terms of like actually, realizing what he wants to do, or then play it in different ways. Don't hit those balls. Don't try it each time because it does look stupid. And yeah, the Premier League obviously shouldn't be posting out a tweet like that. But I assume it's like an intern or something, right? Or just an Arsenal fan or something, right? And they can get away with these things nowadays anyway, right? They're not going to get in big trouble or disciplined for it, they'll laugh it off, right? And I think they deleted the post, didn't they? Because we complained about it to the Premier League. So at least, because these things also just, they don't help the whole Spursy tag, do they? You know, it's just, oh, look at that again. But look, I mean, you know, it's not acceptable. You know, I don't want to bring up, you know, the Raya thing again, but we had the opportunity to buy David Raya in, you know, in the same month that we bought Vicario, and we balked at the price because it was 10 million more. And then in the end, they got him on a cut price move. We got Vicario in. He did okay, I guess, in the first season overall. But there's a reason probably why he's never, you know, played for a top Champions League team so far in his career. He was a slow bloomer anyway, wasn't he? He only just kind of made the step up really just before he joined us. But it's not good enough. It doesn't help us. That's the problem. And he's part of our leadership group as well. So that probably makes it more difficult as well in terms of what the dynamic is in the squad. But
why
again,
did the
you know,
players that's what I want to know. Why did the rest of the players allow him to keep kicking the ball? That's what I've never understood. Why pass it back to him if you know he can't kick the ball? Anytime there's a chance to kick the ball as a
easy
free
option.
kick, you let Porro take it. Like, you just tell Porro, you're taking all the goal kicks. Like, even like the last couple of kicks at the end, I'm just like, why are you kicking the ball? Of all people, why are you going to be the one to kick the ball into the box when you know you can't do this? And then we've got we've got Maddison there, we've got Porro there. Do none of them train with him to say, look, this is a better way out to kick a ball. This is a better technique. I remember Ryan Giggs used to have a video back in it, like a video. I'm talking about, that's how old I am. He had a video of showing you how he kicks the ball, how he does skill, how he takes a touch. Are we really saying that he can't improve, or is he? This is what I don't understand, because it's kicking a ball. We're not talking about you need to be doing some David Beckham-esque type of passes, but a lot of these passes are not under pressure, so it makes no sense. I get last minute you have to boot the ball, hit out for throwing or something. But some of the things he does, it's more of a bozo thing in my eyes. It's more of that you're not concentrating, you don't care enough to concentrate, so you're just gonna kick it anyhow instead of you're really aiming. Like certain long kicks, we've got Solanke and Mwani up there, and he's not even going nowhere near him. I don't understand that when we've got players who can at least kick a ball.
And Alistair Gold, thank you, Justin, reported today via Football London that Spurs got in touch with the Premier League at various levels about how poor the social media post was about Vicario from an account that's meant to be the voice of the league, and that the league should not be mocking its own teams nor players. I will just say, whatever you think about this, I've seen it plenty of times before. As much as it's frustrating as Spurs fans, I've seen this quite a bit. Do you know, of Spurs players as well, I remember seeing it at Trippier. I talked about that mistake earlier at Stamford Bridge. That there was a whole video created about it on the Premier League. I mean, do you know what? I think I'm going to quickly try and find it here. I swear there was a video. Yes, I've got it here. There we go. Created about, it's all about when things go wrong, and Trippier, there you go, was the front of it. I'm glad I could quickly find that. So that's just what I mean. And it's not the only one that's been done as well. So some suggest is there an agenda. I don't like to believe that. Look, one with Harry Kane here as well, about did he really mean it when shooting? It was a perfectly good goal. So the examples are absolutely endless. Again, Premier League mistakes just keep on getting worse. Eric Dyer is on the front of that. So there's maybe a little bit of a reoccurring theme here, some would say. So not a
Do you
good look
remember
at
when
all.
they made Harry Kane do an interview about the dive? I've still never seen another player have to do an interview about a dive.
I've never seen it was like the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Crazy.
And
look here, 1 hour of own goals. Why is Kane on the front? Crazy. Dustin, give your opinion before we wrap up on what we're talking about here.
So I think the thing is that we've known that Vicario has never been the most composed on the ball. We know that he doesn't have a good mid-range pass. We know that Kinski does, but we refuse to use him. So fine. But you should still be able to play around a player's weaknesses. We saw some of this, but we didn't see as much of this under Ange. I think partially because the team moved differently and made themselves available in a different way in build-up as well. So I think part of the thing is that there are things that the players do out of in possession where they make themselves available, have bounce passes, have options, have centre backs, or dropping midfielders in order to give him an option that doesn't accentuate or exacerbate his weaknesses. But I think that the way that we've been coached as well means that we don't play that way anymore. So we are more akin or more likely to launch a long ball. But it feels like we're not even launching long balls in a way that helps us win the second balls. You can still punt the ball, but if you have teams of players that you define, we're going to punt the long ball to Richarlison, we're going to punt the long ball to Muani, and then we have two midfielders that charge up to win the second ball. So even if they don't win the header, even if the opposition win the header, we have a way of trying to still win possession even if our own player doesn't win possession. But it feels like we don't even have that plan in place. We're just like punting it long because we don't have the ability to play it short, and we'll see where the chips fall. And we should have a better plan than that, which is there are teams that do this, which is they punt it long. You've seen PSG do this, right? From the kickoff, they punt it into the corner flag, and then they press you into the corner, and they expect to win the ball from there. So that is a plan, at least. But it just feels like we are playing around the weaknesses, being if you can't play it short, then just kick it, and we'll figure it out from there, which doesn't feel to me like a sustainable way of building up.
Absolutely that, Dustin. Thank you very much. That wraps up nicely for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs podcast, all in an hour and 15. We've covered an awful lot. So thank you very, very much. Let's go through and see if we can find my panel, wonderful guests on social media. As always, to those viewers, thank you very much for their continued support. Philip, firstly, thank you. Tell people what you do on social media and where they can follow you. Really grateful for your time, even in these difficult circumstances.
Yeah, you can find me mainly on X at Frankfurt Spurs. I tweet or mainly about Tottenham, sometimes about the Bundesliga. I'm involved in running a official Tottenham Hotspur supporters club in Germany as well. I'm building that up, and I'm going to start tweeting a bit more about that as well, trying to get some legends to do some events or something as well. I need to always stop myself to start tweeting about politics and stuff, because obviously it's not in the best situation either sometimes as well, and it's easy to get quite triggered about Tottenham and also about things happening in the world. But I try my best to keep myself just to football on there, and I'm trying to be positive as well. So I'm going to put a lot of positive tweets out this week as well about Tottenham and about maybe how we can try and get an improvement out of the game on Thursday as well. So check me out anyways.
Love it. Philip, thank you as always. Love it. Positivity is always the way. I think you can have sensible and adult conversations, but just constant negativity towards your own club is never needed, never helpful. We're all annoyed, right? We're all annoyed, but let's come together, let's unite, and let's give the players and the manager included the support that gets them over the line. Because ultimately, if you're the 12th man in the game, you have a lot more chance of winning. The fans can be the 12th man, especially in these home games where the atmosphere has been questioned at times. Dustin, thank you very much for whether it be getting up or staying up late in the night or getting up early, whatever it may be. Thank you so much for your commitment as always. Where can people follow you and more in terms of your analysis on the socials? Thank you again.
Yep, you can follow me on the tag on the screen. I'm working on a new video now, which is how to build a stable football club. So what I'm doing is I'm analyzing kind of like owners, how long they're in situ, and then I'm also analyzing director of football and manager, and how more stable clubs, for example City, have a director of football and manager that have been in situ for a much longer time, the kind of stability that it can engender. So still in the midst of doing it, finding some interesting things as I'm looking through the data about like how clubs build stability, and that should be out maybe next week or so.
Oh, fantastic stuff. I look forward to that. Remind me about that. I'll go check that out. Dustin, thank you very much. Keep up the good work as well, along with Philip. And talking of good work, Justin, as always, thank you very much. I know you do create your own content, which you don't speak about enough because it is good as well. But where can people follow you on the socials?
Yeah, thank you for having me again. Great panel. Yeah, you can catch me on TikTok and you can catch me on X, The Right Show. To be honest, this season's been so depressing. I start making a video And then I just think, you know what? Let me just wait. And like, worst thing was I was going to restart when Tudor come, and it was like Arsenal game first. I was like, you know what? I can see it in the stars. But yeah, if you ever want to catch me at the games, I'm normally working at all the home games. I'm gonna be block 105 pitch side, so just come through, say hello.
Thank you for your work as well for the club during these difficult times. Thank you very, very much. And thank you to everyone that's listened. Fourth biggest Tottenham fan channel in February. Huge honour beating last one of Spurs, of course, a juggernaut for many years. The tide is turning. Thank you very much for putting your trust in me, my guests, and my content. We keep on delivering. Thank you very much. But for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.